thank you all for joining KSU's Franchise Management Series, Management 4124. Guest speaker series includes CEOs, private equity firm leaders, bankers, entrepreneurs, and advisors. We're in a classroom on the KSU campus where the cameras only face front and in the top of the ceiling due to student privacy requirements. So it may seem like I'm looking down it all by myself. While I'm on screen, our students provide the questions and can have the opportunity to interject additional thoughts and questions during these conversations. Now, my name is Jordan Krolick, Professor of Franchise Management. My non-professor life is as an independent equity sponsor acquiring businesses, consultant, and senior leader with companies such as McDonald's, Arby's, Home Depot, and more. Today, we are extremely excited to have Edith Wiseman. Edith is president of FRANdata, a leading franchise market research firm, understanding all things franchising and equating insights into results. Named by Entrepreneur Magazine as a top influential woman, Edith is the go-to person for hundreds of franchisors, top franchise leaders, Fortune 500 companies, and industry partners. Edith sat on the International Franchise Association, or IFA's executive committee, former chair of their Supplier Forum Educational Foundation Board, Ascension Initiative, the Emerging Franchisor Task Force, and is fluent in German. Luckily for me, today's conversation is going to be in English. We are so happy to have you join us, Edith, and welcome to KSU.
Thank you. My fluency in German declines with every year, so that one is questionable.
Hey, I wish I was fluent in languages, and I wish I could play the piano. We can't all have what we want. So I'm going to have one of my students kick it off. Hopefully he can. Hey, Riley, okay? You're good. Good to go. Riley, introduce yourself and the first question for Edith.
Hey, my name's Riley Skelton. I'm a senior here at Kennesaw State. I was wondering, can you discuss any recent research or studies that FRANdata has conducted that you find interesting?
Wow. So the problem with that is that I find every study that we do very interesting. So I was just looking at two different studies. One is our client is a swim school franchise from another country, and they're looking to expand into the United States. And so what we're doing for them is looking at basically 3 or 4 different metrics to help them plan and help them raise money as part of their US expansion. So the first is they want to understand, or we help them think about that. One of the things they need to understand is what is realistic growth in their first 5 years in franchising in the United States, and what models are being deployed. So one of the really neat things about franchising is that, you know, I was looking at the number of different models that franchisors offer. So the average is basically 3. The most was 7. So what do I mean by models? A model could be a kiosk. A model could be a retail store. A model could be in a co-branded location, right? So those are different models. And so in this case, in the swim school space, there's a rent to own model, and there's there's a swim to own and a rent to swim. So that means like someone's going into like a Lifetime Fitness and they're using that facility to conduct swim schools versus I'm going to buy a building, I'm going to build a swimming pool. So what we did is try and help them understand what the growth should be, how much revenue they're going to generate in their first 5 years, what their EBITDA is going to look like, typical closures in that space, time to open, all the metrics to help build their business plan to expand in the United States.
And so what do you think? How should they expand?
Well, it's interesting. The fastest growth brand experienced the greatest number of failures. And so my key takeaway from this is that regardless of which model, the rent to swim or the own to swim, that the moderate growth model is the most sustainable and the most profitable. So, and within 5 years, franchisors can be EBITDA positive and have meaningful royalty income to rely on for growth versus just kind of franchise fee income.
So now that we've jumped into the deep end of the pool. get it?
Totally dumped into the deep
Get it?
end.
That's why I'm so good. But tell us a little bit about FRANdata, how you got involved, so on and so forth. Just give us an overview of what is FRANdata.
So FRANdata is a franchise market research company in franchising. We exclusively focus on franchising. So I like to say we eat, breathe, and sleep franchising, and I'm not even kidding about that. And our objective is to have an FBI file on every franchisor and franchisee, and to use that information to help improve the franchise business model. That's the
Very
quick
good.
skinny.
I like the quick skinny. Emilus, why don't you kick us off from here?
Hey, my name is Emilus. I'm a senior here at KNSU, majoring in entrepreneurship. And my question is, could you briefly walk us through the evolution of your product? How did it look back in the 90s compared to now?
Oh boy, howdy. I love it. That's a good question. So this business started as a UFOC collection business. So it started by an attorney and who recognized that there was no information. And funny story, but actually real. When I first joined the company, I physically printed out now called an FDD, formerly called Uniform Franchise Offering Circular. And I had to deliver it by hand to a hotel where there was a bunch of litigation going on. And so I had a box of FDDs, UFOCs, and brought it to these attorneys. So it started off as a document collection business and evolved into an information business that evolved into a market research consulting firm. So, so now, the types of questions we're asked are more significant, have greater significantly impacting the brands, the franchise systems, and the lenders and suppliers that we work with. I can go into more detail, but that's a synopsis.
And next question from Julia, your first question. You always give me that grin.
Hi, I'm Julia. I'm a senior here at KSU, and my question was, on the company website, it says in your bio that you've been a part of FRANdata for 15 years. In what ways have you seen the company grow during that time from your role as president?
Wow, that needs to be updated. It's about 26 years now, so thanks for pointing that out. So when I started with the company, I was a researcher, right? Like you get out of school, what do you know how to do? Research. But really I'd say my core talent is sales and communications. And so the company and evolved through identifying market needs. And so that means like really listening to what customers need. So someone like me who transitioned from research into sales, really staying attuned to what the customer is saying their pain points are and what is not being served in the marketplace. So I'll give you for instance, I call franchisees the underground club because it's really impossible to figure out who they are, what do they own, and how much do they own of it, right? Something that simple. And it doesn't exist anywhere. You go to Dun & Bradstreet, you go to Zoom Info, like they're terrible at this because they're used to tracking corporations. And corporations are actually much easier to aggregate data on than franchisees. So they often identify an individual business as being a part of, say, KFC corporate, instead of saying like, oh, this is an independent owner. So since we understand franchising and we understand all the machinations, we know how to categorize and how to identify people and how to contact them and their ownership. So I have a team of what I call franchisee investigators, and they will look at something that nobody outside of franchising understands. So I'll give you a term. It's called an area representative. So a company like Subway, they have these middle tier franchisees who are acting as what I'll call mini franchisors in a region. So they're designed to sell and support franchisees in that region. Nobody else outside of this franchise industry understands who that is and how to appropriately designate that person. Because that person could be an area representative for not only Subway, but could be doing it for some ice cream concept, or, so they could be an area representative for 3 brands, own franchise units in each of those brands. And anyone outside of franchising could not put that puzzle piece together. So I'd say staying attuned to customers and really evolving the business to meet the needs of those customers is the primary way that we've evolved.
No, that's absolutely true. That makes perfect sense. Shahil?
Hi, I'm Shahil, and my question to you is, given that you're the biggest company that specializes in this area, what did you do differently than the other companies trying to get into this field, and what put you on top?
So I would say that people think that gathering franchise information is easy. So I called it an Edith unhinged moment. So there's a company that is trying to collect franchise information. And so they have a newsletter and they're talking about this franchise brand and their average sales. And my unhinged moment was, these people don't know what they're doing, because they're just scraping information. They're not using their brains and analysts to really understand what that information is. So the fact is they were reporting, that this franchisor's average sales for their franchisees were $200,000 more than what they actually are. So what puts us above and beyond anyone else is we are all about data integrity. Whenever we put together processes, we're slow, because we know that we have to factor in the fact that franchising covers 230 subsectors, and there's so many different models. And if you just lump it all together, you're missing the boat and you're misleading people. And so for us, that's what sets us apart, is that we are truly franchise experts, and we really are slow, and we're very keen on making sure our data is accurate.
So that leads us into Justin.
Yes. So my question is, how do you feed information to franchise companies with the data you have gathered? Are you selective with the data you disclose, or do you work more in the advisor standpoint?
Do you mind repeating that one more time? I kind of missed the last part of it, so I want to make sure I get it all.
Yes. How do you feed information to franchise companies with the data you have gathered? Are you selective with the data you disclose, or do you work more in the advisor standpoint?
So we have 3 different customer bases. So we have lenders, we have franchisors, and suppliers. So I'm going to speak to the lenders and the franchisors specifically. So franchisors typically are hiring us on a project basis. So when I get a testimonial from, the largest platform brand called Neighborly, it's because we've custom designed a project that is designed to help them understand something or solve a problem. So in that case, we're not limiting the information that we're sharing. It's very much designed around, what are we trying to learn? So for instance, one simple thing could be, what is current pricing in the franchise space? So if I look across 130 or 200 franchise brands, what are franchisors charging for royalties, for franchise fees? And so if someone comes to us with a hypothesis, like we'd like to raise our franchise fees, we want to incent franchisees to renew. What are some creative ways to do that? So we might scan the universe and say, have you thought of X, Y, and Z? This is what we found. And when it comes to pricing, what you're suggesting is really at the top end of the bell curve. So you might have a drop off in franchise sales if you go that high. So in that case, that's very market research driven based on a hypothesis or a question or something that they're thinking of doing. On the lender side, they subscribe to our credit risk reports on franchise companies. So we have a methodology where we credit risk rate every single franchise brand that has been franchising for more than 5 years and has over 50 units. And this is a predictive credit score model, and they get access to the entire inventory. And at this point, over half of all SBA loans are made by banks that use our franchise credit score.
So basically, they can tell if it's a good franchise for you guys to invest in, if you're gonna become the franchisee.
Yeah, well, what it tells the lender is the likelihood that a franchisee is going to pay them back if they lend them money. So, so
And that
they
is their
might,
goal.
that
They like-
is their goal. So if they see a brand that has like a 900 credit score out of 950, they might say, gosh, that's incredible. I'm going to offer this franchisee below market rates, because this is something where I know I'm gonna get paid back.
No, it makes perfect. So again, you go to a Taco Bell, you're gonna get better rates. You go to Jordan's Donuts, not so much. Taylor?
Hi, my name's Taylor. I'm a senior here, majoring in international business. How does FRANdata utilize data analytics to identify emerging trends and opportunities for franchise growth?
So we're always trying to look at the problem a little bit differently, right? So, the other day I was looking at the early childhood education space. And, when you look at information over time, sometimes you see things differently than if you're just looking at a point in time. So what emerged from just looking at data over time, so it was over like a 20-year period, is what we could see is that franchise brands that come to market today are able to achieve royalties faster than the market leaders did when they first came to market. So in other words, a new brand that is coming into that space might, when it took a franchise brand maybe 20 years to say get to a certain point of royalties, you could get there in 5 years. Because the market has matured, the market has been educated and is using the services more. So I guess to answer that question, we're always kind of trying to look at information slightly differently, different metrics. Like we created our own metric of continuity rate in franchising. And looking at things like royalty to EBITDA margins to be able to evaluate the how much revenue or how much income a franchisor is really able to generate from royalties. So just always trying to push the envelope in terms of how we're looking at franchise brands.
Well, that makes perfect sense. Amir?
Yeah, so hey, I'm Amir, the senior at Kennesaw State, majoring in business management. My question is, when dealing with different markets and industries such as private equity acquisitions or franchisors, do you use a uniform approach to help these companies, or do you tailor individually to these companies? And if you do tailor individually, what is the structure set up like to help all these different industries and sectors at the same time?
So when it comes to, say, private equity if a private equity firm is looking to invest in a franchisor, or a franchisee, usually they are coming to us with a hypothesis. So either we think that this brand is we can grow it to 2x, right? And so do the fundamentals of this business support that? And so while there are standard things that we're looking at, right, that are important when you're looking at the health of a franchise system, you want to make sure that franchisees are actually making money, you know, that they're actually fulfilling their development schedules if they exist, or that they want to fulfill their development schedules, that they're not looking to sell out, that they're not divesting or trying to invest in other brands and not in the brand in question. So there are fundamental things that are universal to knowing that a franchise system is healthy. But at the same time, there are some things that might be different because the way franchisors expand. So I'll give it for instance. So I'm not sure I can give it for instance. Okay, so I'll give one that is no name. There was a private equity firm looking to invest in a business that when we dug under the hood, we realized like their territory sizes were enormous, right? So one territory was, so I'm based in Washington, DC, like Alexandria, Virginia, and the territory was from Baltimore, Maryland, all the way down to Alexandria, Virginia. And so when you're thinking about like what, you know, first of all, their revenue for that size territory, you know, was not impressive. And so you think about the challenges with trying to grow where you have territory sizes that are locked up for a long period of time. So you have to kind of look at that differently. I just had a friend of mine who a private equity firm is looking to hire him to lead a brand if they buy it. And he's like, what do you think's the viability, right? They're in the space and I looked at the franchisee base and I was like, this is a bunch of owner operators who have been used to doing their own thing for a very long time.
Sure.
And they're proud to be hippies. And if all of a sudden you start to impose system standards and you're asking them to be people they aren't, that's going to be a long road to hoe, you know? So there are kind of, to answer your question in a very long way, is there are some
Understood that from
standard
me.
things.
If I can explain things in thousands of words, I try to do that because I got time to fill here.
So,
but I can picture what the brand is that you're talking about.
oh boy. So there are some standard things that we're looking at, but sometimes we have to dig a little bit deeper, depending upon what we think is unique about that brand that might pose challenges to the hypothesis that a private equity firm is coming to us with.
No, that makes perfect sense. Let's go to Bryson. Probably looking at your first question.
Yeah, I'm Bryson. I'm a senior here at Kennesaw State. I was wondering how FRANdata changed over time as the franchising model is like ever changing.
So as the franchise model has been changing a lot, how has FRANdata changed over time?
So I think that means we've had to adjust some of the information we're collecting. So just something really simple, you know, before there used to be one initial investment, right? Like I'm going to build a KFC and it typically has, you know, is this size, right? And so it's going to cost X to Y amount to open. But now we've had to capture a lot more information across different types of models. So now, could it be in a strip center? Could it be, in an airport? Could it be at a travel center, right? So there's that's something I'd say on the simple side that we just have to capture more information. One thing that we do is try and get confidential information from franchisors, because when you think about financials of a parent company, you get very little visibility into the financials of an individual brand. And so that can be challenging. I mean, think about like something as simple as Jiffy Lube. Jiffy Lube is owned by Shell Oil Company. Knowing Shell Oil Company's financials have very little value to anyone. Other than if you're investing in them publicly. But in terms of understanding the health of Jiffy Lube itself, so we've evolved to ask franchisors for access to that information, and their raison d'etre is if financing is important, then they'll give that information to us. So it doesn't become something that we share publicly, but it becomes something that we're able to validate to a lender that this franchise system is actually stable and will be around for their borrower, 5 years from now when they're still trying to pay on their loan.
So when you look at franchisee, the classes each got to pick a concept and take it, basically build a whole business plan and pitch book in case they were going to be the franchise of the concept. What do you like? It doesn't have to be specific brands, it can be, but what characteristics do you like of a concept that you say, hey, you know what? This is what, if I was investing in a franchise, this is one that I would do.
Okay, well, that one's a little bit easy, but not easy at the same time. So this is the number one most frequently asked question that I get, but from like cab drivers to people in the airport. What franchise should I buy, or what's hot? So I guess I'll just base this off research. So we just did a few years ago, Forbes asked us for multiple years to create a best franchise and worst franchise list for them. And so we created a methodology that we ultimately ended up evolving over time. And I love the methodology that we ended up with at the end. And then one of the franchisors who got, so we broke it down into investment categories. So high investment, like medium investment, low investment. And on the high investment side, one of the brands came back to us and said, we'd love it if you could rerun that project, rerun that algorithm, and tell us where we would end up and why. So we did. And the brand that came up to the top was the brand that hired us to do that. Now, one might say like, oh, that's weird. But we would not, first of all, we would not have taken this on if we didn't know that they were a very strong franchise system. And they're strong for a couple of reasons, is because they have a slightly different approach. So I'll tell you their approach, and I'm going to make you wait to the end to tell you who it is. So first of all, they are unique in their industry category because they won't build in a real estate area where they don't think it's, first of all, an A location site, where most of their competitors go into B sites. Secondly, they pull back, like they will give a franchisee their money back if they don't think that real estate site is the right site. So fundamentally, they're looking for a long-term business partner. So they're like, in terms of a franchisee running the business, they don't want a site that they're just going to have to flip to somebody else. Then they do things like they have a convention for the franchisees' managers. So they bring their managers together so that the managers are sharing best practices with each other. right? The people are actually running the shops. And then they've actually seen a boost in performance after these conferences. So they're very franchisee, unit economics focused and support focused. And so that's why their metrics show well. So what their metrics show is that they don't close sites, that they have improving sales at the franchisee level, and they're growing, but not fast, right? So it's moderate growth. So anyway, but it costs a lot of money. So to get into their business, so they can't just attract anyone. So now, drum roll, who is it? Christian Brothers Automotive Group.
Really?
So probably someone you've never heard of.
No, I'm not tremendously familiar with them, but the class still has 2 weeks. They can switch if they want to. So
I guess the other
go
quick
please.
thing that I would say is that, you know, so historically what we've seen across all of franchising is the larger the investment, the lower the failure rate. The smaller the investment, the higher the failure rate. However, with that said, some of the margins on those low investment franchise brands can be very high, and the sales to investment ratio can also be very high. So, so as you're picking your franchise brands, I think it might be just helpful to have that frame of reference.
That is a great frame of reference. And so our last part is more is you know, you, Edith, in running a company, because again, I have a number of students who want to get into franchising, but I also have a lot who you know, more focused probably on the corporate or more of a traditional job. Simeon, why don't you kick us off with this one?
Hey, Edith, I'm Simeon. I was just curious what your day-to-day life looks like in your position that you go.
But what my day-to-day looks like.
Uh-huh.
Yes, ma'am.
Wow. Okay. I'm on the phone all the time. I legitimately get home and my husband wants to talk because he's on the phone, not at all. And I'm like, I'm ready to just not talk. Can we just sit here? So my day-to-day is heavy phone or Teams meetings. So talking to customers, talking to my managers, looking at data, seeing how we're performing, trying to identify kind of where we're weak, where we're strong, coaching, mentoring people. So like, I go to a fair number of conferences to meet with customers and to really learn about what's going on in each of our customer segments. So, you know, there is no day that is the same, but I would say that most of my days are pre-scheduled, right? So if I look at my calendar for, you know, the next couple of weeks, I color code my calendar, and the color coding is a certain color for personal. It's another color for external, and the third color for internal. And the reason why I do it this way is my dad's wife is an executive assistant, and was the executive assistant to the Verizon head of commercial. So he's in charge of all sales for commercial clients at Verizon, pretty big job. And revenue was not going in the right direction.
Sure.
And so what she did is she printed out his calendar and put it up on the walls, and she color coded all of the internal meetings versus the external meetings. And essentially, she showed him visually the reason why revenue was not going in the right direction is because most of his time was spent internally. So my job as president of the company is to really be able to have that strategic vision and to be able to drive growth in the business. And I'm most successful at doing that when I am having a lot of my focus externally and less focus internally.
And Anna, why don't you talk a little bit about the internal?
So hi, I'm Anna Roth, and my question is, now that you are where you are with your career and the growth from, I think you said researcher to now president, what advice would you give to students who are trying to decide between graduate school and jumping into a beginner entry level role? What are your thoughts on that?
So, my opinion is, well, first of all, I should caveat this. I did not go to graduate school, so I might have a slightly different view. I think that it's really important to get experience, right? To really dive in and get experience. I know that most business schools don't want to see people even apply to business school until they have experience, right? Because then you can bring that real world experience into your academic life. So, and if you choose to go that route, I would say that you would need to really lean in to whatever you're doing. So I've seen many new people come and go who have just graduated from college. And my observation is that you're going to hate me for this. So I can't see you, but you can hate me. You can show the looks on your face. Is that the perception by people of my generation is that the new generation is just coming in and they basically want to have overnight success. So I want more money, I want to work less, I want to work the way I want to. And I actually had someone say to me after being here for 6 months, like, you don't work the same way I do. And I'm like, well, help me understand what that's like. Well, I like to work a little bit and then like take a break and go on a walk. And I'm like, yeah, so would I. You know what though? However, you can't actually become great at what you're doing if what you're doing is half the day going for a walk. So whatever you're doing, even if you think it's mundane, figure out how to lean into it and really learn from it, right? So I have people who are what I call franchisee investigators. Their entire day is trying to find people. And that could be the most horrible job. But if you're looking and you're saying, are you kidding me? This person first started as a delivery boy and now they have 75 locations. And you're like, and look at that house. They have a $2 million house that's just their like vacation home. And you're really trying to assess, taking any mundane information and trying to make meaning from it. Then you will become someone who everybody looks at, and then you're able to take that to your next. So like the way I think about, I might be listening to like a podcast on, some other business, but I'm hearing it through the lens of like, how could this help franchising, or how could this help my business? So just, I guess my long-winded way is like graduate school is really helpful. I'm sure it is. I did not go, but my education was on the job and self-consumption, right? So when I first got into franchising, every morning I would get up and walk to the coffee shop and I would read franchising magazines. And when I got off from work, I would exercise, then I'd eat dinner and I'd read all about sales. So like I just dove headfirst. And I don't see that much as I did. And so if you choose to go the route that I did, I would just say dive in deep and take as much as you can from it before you do your next thing.
But think of the cardio she had. She probably had great cardio, in wonderful shape. Yeah, we use a phrase here that's using the same type of water analogy. We talk about find your lane and swim fast. Because there's 800 other people swimming. I mean, somebody I was just mentoring the other day came to me and said, he has 3 very junior levels. It's not his first job out of school, it's his second job. He's been at the same job for a couple of years. And he's getting some opportunities. And he turned to me and he said, and he's getting first interviews at least. And when he's now just got an offer, he said, the only way I'm getting an offer is because of connections. Yeah, and how do you do that while all he does is sit on the phone and tries to make connections. Because these companies, they see 400 resumes, 350 of them are all equally talented. And they know this one who's gotten this referral and that type of thing. And it's that type of relationship that gets you in. It's eat, sleep, and drink the specialty that you want to get into. It sounds like you've done that. That's really smart. I want to talk about, before we let you go, I want to talk about how you deal in terms of crisis, because that's happened in all of our careers. I'm going to let Lane ask the question, some of the questions that you posted.
Well, crisis?
Crisis.
Oh, crisis, yeah. Yeah, I'm Lane, I'm a senior here at KSU, and I heard you talk about the importance of being able to evolve to meet your customers' needs. And I was just curious on how you guys managed to evolve through the COVID pandemic to be able to accommodate your customers through there.
How have you dealt with things like, when you get something like a COVID, both personally, you as a person, and then through FRANdata?
So I went on maternity leave, so I completely opted out of COVID. So, okay, that's not a
That
real
was my
answer to your
answer
question. Yeah, so it's very funny that, so I've been through so many, crises with FRANdata, the financial crisis, COVID, I did actually sit out much of it, because I took 6 months for maternity. But, when it came to the financial crisis, we evolved our products. So at the time, franchisors were so used to easy money for their franchisees, right? Like anybody could get financing. And then all of a sudden, almost overnight, nothing, absolutely nothing. So brands just screeched to a halt. And so what we did is, with a partner company, is we developed this service called FDDR. So we aligned with a bank who we said, if we became the independent evaluator of the franchisor, the franchise system, and its performance metrics, where the brand would give us access to all sorts of confidential information, the brand would pay us to do this, and they would never see the report, and we would give it to the bank. And then the bank would independently decide whether or not the brand was strong enough to allocate money for its franchisees. And then the bank would determine like what an individual franchisee would have to look like in order to access that money. So prior to the financial crisis, we did not have this model. Lenders would come to us and say, oh, we want to lend to this business. Can you evaluate it? And so then we would evaluate it for the lender. This was driven by the franchisor. And so they were highly motivated to give us whatever we wanted because they needed capital, because every brand was stalled.
No,
so that's just an example.
No, and it just shows the importance of one of the other things we talk about is if you think life is a straight line, and Harvard Business Review does great things of saying, oh, they knew this was going to be the case, and of course then it happened. It's never that way. It's random to a certain extent, but please.
True. I would also say, listen to people. Like I would say this is most things in life, whether it's a relationship that you're getting into, like a boyfriend or girlfriend, or relationships that you have in business. People tell you things, and most of the time, a lot of people ignore, right? Like here's my funny, like if someone's saying like, I don't want to be in a serious relationship, and you're just like, oh, I don't know about that. Like, listen to them. They mean it. So same thing in business, when people tell you things like, oh, our stores in China are not doing very well, right? And here we are in the US, and you're like, oh, COVID's over there, it's not going to come here. And they're saying like, this is decimating their business. Listen to them and say, okay, like those signals help you to prepare. It might not help you to really understand how you're going to react, but at least it's not going to slap you across the face, right? So pay attention to market signals, and don't, bury your head in the sand, because that can help you to react more quickly. I will say during the financial crisis, everyone at FRANdata had to take a pay cut, right? So we all had to, across the board, pay cuts. We laid off nobody, but we all had to suffer, because it was that severe.
But see, this is why I think you're great. First of all, that sharing mentality, but second of all, you not only gave us today business advice, relationship advice, and it's better than the advice I gave the class, which was get married before you go bald. Which is not as good. But seriously, we appreciate your time and your effort, and we really do appreciate you taking a few minutes of your day with us, Edith.
My pleasure, and I wish you guys a lot of success in building your business plan. I will say that if you choose to get into franchising, I call franchising the big black abyss, because people just find it a home, right? Because they realize it's, when we're analyzing data, the thing that I try and bring to life for myself and everybody else is, this is somebody's life, right? So like, if I talk about like, oh, there's a 87% continuity rate, that means 3% didn't survive, and what happened to them. So for you guys, I don't know if Jordan's having you do this, but down the street, there was a soak franchise that just opened up, and I went in and I talked to the new franchisees, and guess what? They're in there right now every weekend, and they're doing it, and they have day jobs, right? And so so if you go and talk to the people who actually own the businesses, especially if it's new, because you're more likely to actually meet the owner, when you're evaluating a franchise, it's people's lives. They're living it every single day. They're hustling. They're trying to make it work. And I think that'll make it more interesting to you, and more impactful to the work that you're doing.
That's awesome. In fact, I'm going to emphasize that after the sets. I really appreciate your time, Edith.
My pleasure. Sorry, I couldn't see you all, but I'm sure you're fascinated.
That's exactly right. No, this is perfect. Okay, well, be good, and you and I will talk soon. And thanks again.
Okay.
For
Take care, everyone.